I hadn't even blown out the anniversary candle. The wax had just started pooling near the base, slow and syrupy. Dinner was getting cold on both plates. I thought maybe she got stuck in traffic, or was finishing up a call, or anything but what it actually was. Then the vibration. One buzz. Two. And then silence. I flipped the phone over. Just a message preview. 5 words. I need space. I'm sorry. Not, I love you. Not, I'll explain. Just that. 5 words. On our 9th anniversary. The thing is, she was supposed to walk through the door any minute. She'd been gone all afternoon. Told me to wait for her. That she had a surprise for me. I thought maybe it was a gift. A reservation. A visit from her brother, who'd been stationed abroad. No. The surprise was that she wasn't coming back. I didn't move for over an hour. I kept thinking, maybe she hit send by accident. Maybe she's in the driveway right now, rehearsing an apology. Maybe. Then I noticed her key was still on the hook. She'd left it. That was the moment it changed. Not the text. Not the silence. But the key. Because you don't leave the key unless it's final. Unless you don't want to come back. Unless you've already been gone a long time in your head. The bedroom smelled like her shampoo. I walked upstairs because my body needed to do something. Anything. I stood in the doorway like a stranger in my own house. Her side of the bed still had the dip where she used to sleep. Her hairbrush was missing. Drawer open. Closet gapped wide. Half her clothes gone. But not all. Just enough to hurt. She left her slippers. She left her book with the dog-eared page. She left the bracelet I got her on our 2nd Christmas. That almost made me laugh. She'd worn it every day for 7 years. Even when the clasp broke and I had to fix it with a safety pin. And now it just sat there, abandoned on the dresser like a paperweight. I opened the fridge and found something worse. You want to hear pathetic? She bought a cake. I found it in the fridge behind the almond milk and leftover chicken tikka. White frosting. One of those generic grocery store ones. Written in shaky red icing. You deserve better. I dropped it. Right there. It fell out of my hands like someone else was holding it. The container cracked. Frosting smeared across the linoleum. I just stared at it. The message still visible through the plastic. You deserve better. I think that was the first time I made a sound. Something between a cough and a gasp. Like my lungs were trying to reject the moment. Why now? And why like this? She didn't say it in person. She didn't call. She didn't even wait to see my face. She ghosted her own marriage. On our anniversary. And if you think that's the worst part, it isn't. Not by a long shot. Because 2 nights later, her sister texted me by accident. A photo. From a rooftop bar. And in the blurry background, smiling wide in a red dress I'd never seen before, was her. Sitting next to a man I had seen before. And that's when everything started unraveling. Her sister wasn't supposed to text me. We hadn't spoken since the holidays. And even then, it was just forced small talk over dry ham and arguments about board games. So when her name lit up my phone, Carly, Melora's sister, my first reaction wasn't panic. Just confusion. Maybe she didn't know what had happened. Maybe she was checking in. But that illusion lasted about 4 seconds. There it was. A blurry photo. Obviously accidental. Probably meant for someone else. The kind people send in group chats without thinking. 2 cocktails. A skyline. Laughter. And in the back, at a corner table lit by string lights, sat Melora, leaning into a man like gravity no longer applied. It wasn't her body language that got me. It wasn't the fact that her hair was curled the way she always said took too much effort. It was the watch. His watch. A silver Bulova with a cracked leather band and a blue dial that ticked too loudly in quiet rooms. I remembered that watch because I had shaken his hand once, and the tick-tick-tick haunted the silence between our words. He was Lyndon, my neighbor's cousin, a guy who helped us set up shelves in the garage last fall. He smelled like cedarwood and talked too much about cryptocurrency. Melora said he gave her the ick. Apparently, that wore off. I stared at that photo for 10 minutes. Not zooming. Not analyzing. Just staring. Like I was waiting for the pixels to rearrange themselves into something else. Some other truth. Something easier. Then, without meaning to, I texted back. Just one word. Seriously? 3 dots appeared. Then disappeared. Then silence. That night, I walked into our garage, turned off the lights, and sat on the cement floor. No music. No phone. Just me and the echo of that watch ticking in my memory. I tried to remember if I had ever made her laugh the way she was laughing in that photo. That open mouth, head tilted back kind of laugh. I couldn't remember. And I think that was the worst part. Not the betrayal. Not even the fact that it was someone who'd been inside our house. It was realizing that I didn't know the last time she'd been happy with me. Like, genuinely happy. Had she been performing for months? Years? Was I too comfortable to notice? The next morning, I woke up on the couch, still in my jeans, smelling like garage dust and self-pity. I opened the fridge out of habit and caught sight of the smashed cake container I hadn't cleaned up. The message had smeared across the plastic now, just a red, sticky mess that looked like a crime scene. "You deserve better" was now just, "You'd SRBTR." Melora still hadn't responded to my text. But Carly did. She sent a second message, this one very much intentional. "I didn't mean to send that. Please don't tell her I slipped up." I replied with one question. "How long has it been going on?" No reply. Just another read receipt and another hole in my chest. I started pulling threads that day. All of them. Phone records. Travel receipts. Old Venmo notes she thought I never saw. There was a payment labeled Beverage Box Plus equals smiling face with horns sent to Lyndon R. 3 months ago. I remembered that night. She told me she was at a girls' vision board party. I stayed home and watched 2 documentaries about lighthouses. Turns out, the only thing she was manifesting was life without me. But here's the thing that really snapped the cord inside my brain. I checked our shared Google Calendar. Weeks ago, she had scheduled a fake dentist appointment for the exact same time that Airbnb confirmation showed up in her email. She was planning her escape under the name of a root canal. And just when I thought I had uncovered everything, something even worse arrived in my inbox. A file. No sender name. Just the word truth. MOV. Attached anonymously. I opened it. And it changed everything. There's a moment before you open something that feels cursed where your body warns you not to. You hover. Your fingers hesitate, like your instincts are whispering. This will hurt differently. That's exactly how I felt staring at that video file. No sender. No message. Just an anonymous MOV called truth. I should have deleted it. I should have shut the laptop and gone to sleep. But my curiosity always outweighed my caution, which is probably why I missed all the signs to begin with. I opened it. It was footage from a phone, vertical, slightly shaky. At first, I didn't understand what I was looking at. The video was recorded inside a dimly lit room, some kind of loft apartment with exposed brick and a string of Edison bulbs dangling from the ceiling. There was music playing faintly in the background, a woman's voice laughing off camera, a man asking, "You sure it's not risky?" And then Melora's voice, unmistakably hers, cut through it all like a blade. "He's clueless. He still thinks I love him." My stomach tightened in one violent clench. I paused the video. My ears rang, not because of the words themselves, but because of the way she said them. There was no hesitation, no guilt. She said it the way someone talks about a roommate who leaves dishes in the sink, like I was an inconvenience, a non-factor, a man she had already buried emotionally, long before she walked out the door. But I hit play again, because I had to. Lyndon appeared in the frame, shirtless, holding a wine glass. He walked over to the couch and flopped down beside her. They were curled up like a couple who had been together for years, not weeks. He made some joke about me, something about my dad energy, and she laughed. That same wild, unfiltered laugh from the rooftop bar photo. Then she looked right into the camera and said, "We're going to tell him after the anniversary. That's fair, right?" He nodded. She added, "I just want it to be clean. No drama. No crying. He'll probably cry anyway, but that's on him." I felt something inside me snap. Not like a twig. More like a frozen lake under too much pressure. Everything I had convinced myself was salvageable suddenly collapsed. There was no misunderstanding here. No mistake. She had planned this. Rehearsed it. Recorded it. I sat there, staring at the final frame of the video. The 2 of them kissing on a couch I didn't recognize, but now couldn't forget. And I realized I was sweating through my shirt. I didn't move for 20 minutes. Just let the screen dim to black while I sank into a silence that felt like punishment. Eventually, I closed the laptop. Not because I was done, but because I was overwhelmed. Every memory started to feel fake. Our wedding vows, the nights we spent building furniture together, the inside jokes, the dumb movies we quoted. All of it suddenly felt like scenes from a show where I'd been cast as the fool. And worst of all, she looked happy. Genuinely happy. Not the smile you force at dinner kind. This was joy, like she had been set free. I didn't sleep that night. I walked the house like a ghost, touching furniture we bought together, flipping through photo albums like they were crime scene files. I kept asking myself over and over, was I that easy to replace? And worse, had she already replaced me months ago and I just refused to see it? By 5 a.m., I made a decision. I wasn't going to reply to her. I wasn't going to confront her with the video. Not yet, because something about this felt bigger, too orchestrated, too confident. That file didn't come from her. Someone wanted me to see it. Someone who knew more than they should have. And that meant one thing. Someone else was watching this unfold besides me. So I called the only person I could think of who had been quiet through all of this. Someone who knew both me and Melora well. Maybe too well. Her mother. I hadn't spoken to Carol, Melora's mother, in almost a year. We were never particularly close. Polite, mostly. Reserved. She was one of those women who mastered the art of soft judgment, always complimenting with an undertone of critique. Everett, I'm so glad Melora married someone stable, she'd once said at a Thanksgiving dinner, pausing just long enough before the word stable to make it sound like an insult. But I called her anyway. I had no one else. It was just after sunrise. I didn't even expect her to pick up, but on the second ring, she answered. No hello. Just a groggy, stern what happened. That caught me off guard. I asked what she meant, and she said, I saw the missed call. I assumed it was about Melora. There was no warmth in her voice. No concern for how I was doing. No pleasantries. I told her that Melora had left me, that she had taken half her things and sent me a text on our anniversary saying she needed space. I told her about the video, the one where Melora and Lyndon laughed about how clueless I was. And when I said his name, Carol went completely silent. I thought the call dropped. I even pulled the phone away to check the signal. Still 5 bars. Carol? I asked. More silence. Then, a sharp inhale. I was hoping you wouldn't find out, she said. I froze. Find out what? But she didn't answer directly. Instead, she said, Everett, I need you to let this go. For your own good. That sentence cracked something open in me. For my own good? People say that when they're trying to keep you from a fire they started, or when they know something worse is coming and want you out of the way. It was the same tone my grandfather used when he told me not to ask why my dad stopped coming around when I was 8. The tone that says, you're not ready for the truth, and I'm not willing to hand it over. I pressed her, asked her how long she knew, if she had met Lyndon, if Melora had done this before. But she just sighed and said, some things are bigger than betrayal, Everett. Sometimes a person has to do what feels wrong to get free. Get free from what? I asked. Again, silence. And then, she hung up. No goodbye, no explanation, just dead air. I sat in the kitchen with the phone still in my hand for what felt like hours. The morning light crept in through the blinds and landed on that cracked cake container still sitting by the fridge. I hadn't thrown it out. I hadn't done anything, really. My life had stalled the moment Melora walked out the door, and now her mother was speaking in riddles like we were all characters in some slow-burning noir film. I started to wonder if I ever really knew any of them. And that's when I remembered something small, something stupid, a detail that had felt irrelevant until now. At our wedding, Melora's mother didn't cry, didn't smile. But when Melora read her vows, I remember Carol looking away. Not out of emotion, out of discomfort. Like she already knew Melora didn't mean a word of it. And worse, like she knew I didn't know. That night, I went digging again. This time, not through her texts or emails or cloud storage. I pulled out a dusty lockbox we kept in the closet. One of those old tin ones you buy from Office Depot and fill with documents you never read twice. Inside was our marriage license, a few tax forms, a copy of the lease from our first apartment, and something else. A manila envelope with a rubber band around it. No label. I didn't recognize the handwriting on the outside, but it was addressed to Melora. Postmarked from 3 years ago. Return address? No name. Just a P.O. box 2 towns over. I opened it. Inside were 3 things. A printed email thread between Melora and someone named R.J. A Polaroid photo of Melora, looking scared, shaken, even, standing outside what looked like a motel. And a note. A short, handwritten note that simply said, if he finds out, you're not the only one who pays. The handwriting didn't match mine. It didn't match Melora's. I stared at that sentence until my head started spinning. And for the first time in weeks, I stopped feeling heartbroken. I started feeling afraid. I didn't sleep after I found the envelope. I just sat on the floor with the contents spread out in front of me like puzzle pieces someone had dumped in my lap without a box lid to guide me. The Polaroid haunted me the most, not because of what was in the background, but because of her face. I'd never seen that expression before, not in all our years together. She looked hollow, like she had just seen something she couldn't explain and wasn't sure if she was safe yet. I turned my attention to the printed email thread. It was short, 2 replies, no subject line, from an address labeled RJ. Ashcroft@Creasmail.com, which didn't mean anything to me at first. But what stood out immediately was the absence of names. The conversation had no greetings, no signatures, just raw, fast messages, cold and coded. The first message read, "Did you tell him about Ashgrove? You promised this would stay buried." The reply, presumably from Melora, "I didn't tell him anything. He still doesn't know. But he's asking more questions now. If this blows up, it's on both of us." And that was it. 2 messages. That's all. But Ashgrove meant nothing to me. At least not at first. I ran a search on my phone, half expecting it to be a street name or some obscure bar. But it wasn't a bar or a location. It was a treatment facility. Ashgrove Behavioral Center, located just 45 minutes outside the city. Their website was generic. Healing language, pastel colors, stock photos of people staring out of windows. But one thing stood out. A blurb that read, "For privacy reasons, our patient registry is confidential. We do not confirm or deny enrollment without explicit consent." And that's when it clicked. I remembered a weekend 4 years ago. Melora disappeared for 3 days. She said she was staying with Carly, unplugging. I didn't question it. Back then, I was still a naive little satellite orbiting her life, grateful to be in her gravity. But now I realized she had never stayed with her sister. She had gone somewhere else. I checked my phone again and searched Creasmail. It wasn't a public email provider. It was internal, private, a domain tied to small organizations, medical offices, or encrypted company systems. This wasn't casual. This wasn't an X. This was part of something structured. And the worst part? She never told me. I printed out the emails again and tucked them back into the envelope with the photo. I didn't know what to do, or who to call, or if I was crossing a line that didn't belong to me. But curiosity has always been my curse. I needed more. I needed why. I couldn't live with just what. The next day, I drove to the Ashgrove facility. It was hidden behind a long gravel road flanked by oak trees. The kind of place designed to be invisible. I parked in front of a plain building that looked more like a rehab center than a hospital. Inside, the receptionist looked up with a tired smile and asked how she could help. I gave her a name. Melora Everett, I said, without hesitation. She blinked, typed something. Her expression didn't change. "I'm sorry," she said calmly. "We can't confirm or deny whether that individual is or ever was a patient here. I'm her husband. I understand, sir. But we have strict confidentiality policies." I leaned closer, lowered my voice. "I don't want her records. I just want to know if someone named RJ Ashcroft works here. Or worked here. That's all." Her eyes twitched slightly. She didn't answer right away. Just stared at me for a second too long, like she was deciding if I was a threat or a tragedy. Then she typed again. "I'm sorry," she said, but her tone had shifted. It was rehearsed now. Mechanical. I thanked her, left a fake name on the visitor sign-in sheet just to see if anyone ever followed up, and walked back to my car feeling like I had knocked on a locked door in a burning house. That night, the quiet felt different. Like the house itself was waiting for something to happen. I poured myself a drink and sat in the living room, staring at a framed photo of our wedding. I don't know why I hadn't taken it down yet. Maybe because part of me still thought this was all just a huge, twisted misunderstanding. That she'd come back through the front door, crying, apologizing, explaining everything with a single breathless sentence. But around 2 a.m., I realized something chilling. Someone had been inside the house. Not recently, before. The week before she left. I remembered coming home one evening and finding the back door unlocked. I assumed I had forgotten. But now, the more I thought about it, the more it bothered me. A few items had been moved. Not stolen, just adjusted. Our fireproof document bag had been slightly unzipped. A drawer in the hallway open when I could have sworn I closed it. Someone was looking for something, and I had no idea if they'd found it, or if they'd be coming back for what they missed. I don't know what exactly pushed me to check the security footage that night. Maybe it was the creeping sense that something wasn't right with how the house felt. Maybe it was instinct. Or maybe I just needed proof that I wasn't going crazy. Ever since I'd found that envelope with the threatening note and the email thread, I had started seeing our old life with new eyes. Like a movie I'd already watched, but this time I was catching all the parts one missed the first time. Our house had a security system. 2 Ring cameras, one on the front door and one in the back, facing the porch. Melora hated them, said they made her feel watched. She always wanted me to disable the motion alerts, and most of the time I did, if only to avoid the little arguments. But I never turned off the recordings. I sat at the dining table with my laptop, a glass of cheap red wine, and a strange sense of dread pressing into my chest as I pulled up the timeline. I went back to the week before she left. I remembered that Thursday. She said she was going to a late meeting with a client, then staying at Carly's overnight to decompress. The timeline showed her leaving around 6:17 p.m., locking the front door behind her. Nothing unusual there. But about an hour later, there was a clip. A ping. Back door. 7:26 p.m. I clicked it. The video showed a man entering through the back gate, walking up the steps casually. Hoodie, baseball cap, backpack slung over one shoulder. He moved like he belonged there. No hesitation. No looking over his shoulder. He walked up to the back door, pulled out a key, my key, and let himself in. I hit pause and stared at his face. The camera angle wasn't perfect, but I could see enough. Short facial hair. Clean jawline. A profile I'd seen once before, briefly, when he helped us lift a sofa into the garage. Lyndon. She gave him a copy of our house key. I sat there, heart thudding, fingers numb. I watched him disappear inside and fast-forwarded 30 minutes. He reappeared holding a folder, flipping through it, as if verifying something. Then he stuffed it into his backpack, stepped back out, and locked the door behind him. He was gone in under an hour. I couldn't breathe properly. There's something particularly violent about watching someone walk through your home like it's theirs, rummaging through your private life while you're clueless, somewhere else, living under the illusion that everything is fine. I pulled up the footage from the hallway camera inside the house, a hidden one I'd installed 2 years ago after a break-in scare down the block. Melora didn't even know it existed. It was tucked behind a shelf, barely visible. I'd only checked it once or twice before. Now I was grateful I'd left it on. The same timestamp. 7:29 p.m. There he was. Inside my house. Inside my marriage. Walking around like he was doing inventory. He paused at our bedroom door, looked around, then headed straight for the hallway closet, the one with the lockbox. I watched him pull it out, open it, take something out, the manila envelope, it had to be, and flip through it. He didn't take the whole thing, just a few sheets of paper. But here's what made my blood turn to ice. He didn't look rushed. He didn't look nervous. He wasn't acting like someone sneaking around. He looked like someone following instructions. And I couldn't help but wonder, was Melora the one who sent him? Or was it someone else entirely? I didn't sleep again. I couldn't. I replayed the videos over and over until the morning sun started cutting through the blinds. I felt violated, but more than that, I felt played. This wasn't just an affair. It wasn't even just emotional abandonment. It was a long game. Or worse, something structured, measured, cold. Melora hadn't just fallen for someone else. She had opened the door to him, given him access, given him me. But here's where things got darker. I checked the footage from earlier in the month, just for the hell of it, just to be sure. 2 more instances. Same man, same backpack, same quiet, practiced entry through the back door. Once when I was at a work retreat. Once when I had gone to visit my mother in Tampa. He'd been in the house multiple times. And the last time? He wasn't alone. There was a second figure, shorter, wearing dark clothing, trailing a step behind him. The camera barely caught their face. But it wasn't Melora. I was sure of that. They didn't take anything. They just stood in the hallway, then in the living room, looking around, like they were studying the layout, memorizing it. I paused the clip. Full screen. Leaned in. The second figure was holding something. A small camera. They were filming. I closed the laptop. This wasn't about a relationship anymore. This was surveillance. And I was the subject. For 3 days, I didn't leave the house. I barely ate. I couldn't focus on anything. I kept the security footage paused on my laptop. The image of that second figure burned into my eyes like a ghost that wouldn't fade. I watched that clip at least 40 times, trying to extract some detail, a hand gesture, a silhouette, something in the way they moved. but it was like watching shadows act out a scene without context. Silent, unsettling, deliberate. On the third night, Melora called me. No warning. No lead-up. Just her name lighting up my phone at 10:47 p.m., as if she hadn't vanished from my life like a magician walking off stage in the middle of a trick. I let it ring twice before answering. I don't even know why I picked up. I think I needed to hear her voice, not out of longing, but to confirm that she was still real, still part of the same timeline, still someone made of skin and breath, and not just betrayal. She didn't say hello. Instead, she said, "You went through the footage, didn't you?" Her voice wasn't angry. It wasn't scared. It was resigned. I didn't respond right away. I just said, "Who was the second person?" There was a pause. Then she said, "Everett, I need you to understand something. Not everything was what it looked like. You were never in danger." That was such a strange choice of words. You were never in danger. I asked again, firmer this time. Who was the second person in our house? What were they recording? Another pause. Then she said, "It was someone from Ashgrove. He's not a therapist, exactly. He's part of a monitoring program." I asked her what the hell that meant, but she dodged it again, talking in vague riddles like she was reading from a script written by someone else. She said, "I was trying to get ahead of something. Something I thought might happen. You've been not well, Everett. You've been off. Distant. I was worried about your state of mind." And that was the moment I finally snapped. Because this was the worst betrayal of all. Not the affair. Not the lying. Not the secret footage or the stolen documents. It was this, the attempt to rewrite my own reality. She was reframing everything I had discovered as if I was the one losing touch. She was flipping the story, projecting concern, weaponizing the idea of care like a scalpel. She wasn't just gaslighting me. She was trying to establish a paper trail. She wanted to make it look like she had reason to fear for herself, like she had gone to professionals because she believed I was unstable. And now it made sense. The missing pages from the lockbox, the odd questions from Carol, the vague legal language in that anonymous note, the sudden interest in my mental health history. Melora wasn't escaping me. She was setting up a foundation for something bigger. A future court filing? A fabricated diagnosis? A full character takedown? And the worst part? I almost believed it. Because when someone you love tells you that you are the problem, and they say it softly enough, calmly enough, with enough false empathy, it slips into your brain like a whisper. It curls around your memories. It rewrites scenes. Had I been too paranoid? Was I imagining things? Was she? Right? No, I knew better. I had proof. I had timestamps, video, documents, lies that stacked up so high they'd eclipsed the truth. But even with all that, her words cracked something inside me. You were being watched for your own safety. How many times had she rehearsed that line? After the call, I sat in the dark for hours, staring at nothing. I thought about every moment we'd ever had together, every laugh, every fight, every Sunday morning where she'd sit at the table reading old magazines and humming some song under her breath. I thought about the first time she said she loved me, the first time she cried in front of me, the first time we almost broke up and decided to keep fighting. And now I realized I'd been fighting alone. She had surrendered a long time ago. She had just been biding her time, building her exit plan like a carefully designed blueprint, and I was nothing more than a name she needed to erase gently so it wouldn't make too loud a sound. But here's what she didn't know. The second figure, the one she claimed was part of a program, had made a mistake. And in that mistake, I found the first real crack in their story. They left behind a piece of equipment, a device I almost threw away. And inside it was the one recording they never meant for me to see. The device was small, the kind of cheap wireless mic you'd clip to the inside of a shirt or jacket, no larger than a thumb. I found it wedged beneath the hallway radiator, dust-coated and barely visible. Probably fell off during one of their visits. I almost tossed it in the trash. But something told me not to. Something in my gut said, check it. Just once. It took some work, adapters, a borrowed recorder from my neighbor, but I got it powered on. There was only one file. A long audio recording. No title, no timestamp. I hit play. It started with silence. A door creaking open. Footsteps. Then two voices, Lyndon and the second person. Male. Measured. Calm in a way that made my skin crawl. At first, it was just noise. Small talk. Then the tone changed. The man said, "She's sure he doesn't suspect anything?" And Lyndon replied, He's slow to catch on. Emotionally soft. That's the whole reason this will work. There it was. Clear. Undeniable. A script. A plan. Deliberate orchestration. The rest of the recording confirmed everything I feared, and more. Melora was working with them, yes, but not out of fear or necessity. She had chosen this. Crafted it. Not just to leave me. Not just to cheat. But to remove me from the picture entirely. Whether it was to protect herself legally, or to spin a future where she could claim mental health issues as justification, I don't know. Maybe it was about image. Maybe she just didn't want to be the villain on paper. But they had rehearsed every move. Every phrase. Even the text she sent me on our anniversary. I need space. It wasn't an accident. It was scripted, suggested, pre-approved by the very people she claimed were helping me. I backed up the audio. Sent copies to myself, my lawyer, my mother, and a Dropbox account I hadn't used in years. I made sure it wouldn't vanish. Then I did something unexpected. I let go. I didn't confront her again. I didn't send a dramatic message or try to ruin her life. I let the silence speak for me. I filed for divorce through quiet legal channels, submitted the evidence without commentary, and refused mediation. Her lawyer requested a meeting. I declined. She sent a letter. I never opened it. Because the truth is, I didn't need anything else from her. I had already won. Not in the petty way. Not revenge. Not spite. But clarity. Peace. Because I was never crazy. I was never unstable. I was never the villain. I was just the last person in the room to realize the lights were off. 6 months passed. The house felt different now, lighter. I repainted the bedroom. Donated the furniture she picked out. Adopted another dog, because Benson was lonely, and frankly, so was I. I started writing again. Not for anyone, just for myself. It felt good to bleed onto the page without censoring my pain. Then one morning, while waiting for coffee, I got a message from Carol, Melora's mother. It was short. I know what she did. I'm sorry I protected her. You didn't deserve that. I stared at the screen for a while before deleting the message. Not out of anger. Not because I didn't care, but because I didn't need it anymore. I'd stopped needing validation from people who only saw me when it was convenient. And now? Now I'm okay. Not perfect. Not over it. But okay. I'm learning that closure isn't something you get handed in a neat little box. Sometimes, closure is a slow, silent process. 1,000 little steps away from the version of yourself that waited too long for an apology. I don't think I'll ever understand why Melora did what she did. But I no longer wake up with her name in my mouth. I no longer dream of the moment she left. Instead, I dream of the quiet, of stillness, of the kind of love that doesn't manipulate or gaslight or disappear without explanation. Maybe one day I'll find that kind of love again. But even if I don't, at least I found something else. Myself.